Women do not pick the best-looking man. They do not pick the richest man. They pick the man who makes them feel this. You have watched it happen and never fully understood it. A man who does not look like much on paper walks into a room and somehow ends up with the most attractive woman in it. He is not the tallest, not the wealthiest, not the one who checked every box on the list that dating advice always told you to check. And yet she chose him, completely, without hesitation. And you have probably spent time wondering what he had that made that happen. What invisible quality he was carrying that made the decision obvious to her when it made no logical sense from the outside. Here is the answer that most men spend years looking for and never find because they keep searching in the wrong places. Women do not pick men the way men think they do. The criteria most men are trying to meet are not the criteria that actually drive the decision. And once you understand how women actually pick men, everything you thought you knew about attraction gets replaced by something far simpler, far more actionable, and far more within your control than you ever realized. Today we are breaking it down completely. No theory, no fluff, just the honest, psychology-backed truth about how women actually make the decision to choose a man. Before we go any further, subscribe right now and hit that like button. This channel is built for men who want the real answers that nobody else is putting together clearly enough to actually use. And I need to be honest with you about something. If you have been spending your time, your money, and your energy trying to meet criteria that have nothing to do with how women actually make their decisions, every day you go without understanding this is costing you. Not just in dating, in the way you see yourself and the way you invest in becoming who you are capable of being. The Magnetic Masculinity ebook in the description is going to give you the complete picture. The full, honest, psychology-backed guide to understanding how women pick men and becoming the man they pick consistently. Men who have read it say it was the first time attraction finally made complete and total sense to them. The link is in the description. Scroll down and grab it right now. Here is the painful situation most men find themselves in without understanding why. They are doing everything they were told to do. They are working on their appearance. They are building financial stability. They are trying to be funny, interesting, and well-presented. They are putting effort into every area that the world told them women care about, and the results are inconsistent at best. They attract some interest, but not the deep, genuine, she chose you because you are exactly what she was looking for kind of interest. Not the kind that feels like a real match rather than a negotiated outcome. And so they conclude that they are not enough yet, that they need more. More money, more muscle, more status, more of whatever external quality they have been told is the deciding factor. But here is the thing that nobody is telling them. The man who has everything on that list and does not understand what we are about to break down is still going to struggle. Because the list is the wrong framework entirely. Women do not make their selection decision based on a checklist. They make it based on a feeling, a specific, identifiable, consistently triggered feeling that certain men create and most men never do. And the men who create that feeling are not always the most impressive men by external measures. They are the men who understand something about how that feeling is created and live in a way that creates it naturally. Evolutionary psychologist Dr. David Buss spent decades studying how humans select partners across every culture on the planet. And what his research revealed was both simpler and more profound than most men expect. Women are not primarily selecting for resources or appearance, though those things have some influence. They are primarily selecting for signals, behavioral signals that communicate one specific thing to the deepest part of their biology. This man can be trusted with my future. That is the decision. It sounds simple because it is. But the signals that communicate that message are specific, consistent, and completely within the control of any man who understands what they are. Neuroscientist Dr. Helen Fisher, whose research on the biology of love and attraction found that the brain's partner selection process in women is largely driven by the limbic system, the emotional brain, rather than the prefrontal cortex, the logical brain. This means that the decision is made emotionally and justified intellectually afterward. She does not think her way to choosing a man. She feels her way there. And then she finds reasons to support what she already feels. This is why the checklist approach fails so consistently. Because you can tick every box on a logical list and still not trigger the emotional response that actually drives the decision. Here is what does. Factor 1. She picks the man who knows who he is. The single most powerful selection signal a man can send is a clear, settled, unshakable sense of his own identity. This is not arrogance. It is not performance. It is the specific quality of a man who has done enough internal work to know what he values, what he stands for, how he wants to live his life, and what he will and will not accept from the world around him. When a woman encounters a man who is genuinely settled in his own identity, her brain reads one thing immediately. This man cannot be moved by pressure, fear, or the desire to be liked. He knows who he is regardless of whether you approve of it. And that quality, that groundedness, creates the specific emotional response that starts the selection process more reliably than any external quality that exists. Research from Dr. Buss found that psychological stability and a clear sense of identity are among the top predictors of a woman's long-term interest and commitment. Not because women want controlling men, because they want men who are in control of themselves. Know who you are. Be it without apology. And watch how consistently women respond. Factor 2. She picks the man who makes her feel safe. Safety in this context does not mean physical protection, though that plays a role. It means emotional safety. The specific experience of being around a man whose reactions are predictable, whose character is consistent, and whose presence makes the world feel more manageable rather than less. A woman who feels emotionally safe with a man does not have to manage him. She does not have to monitor his moods, manage his ego, or wonder which version of him is going to show up in a difficult moment. She can simply be herself around him, fully, without editing. That experience is rarer than most people realize, and women are drawn to the men who create it with a consistency that most men mistake for the woman being extremely easy to attract. She is not easy to attract. She simply found someone who made her feel safe enough to show her full interest. And that is one of the highest compliments a woman's behavior can pay to a man. Dr. John Gottman's research on what creates lasting partnership found that emotional safety, the felt experience of being accepted and understood without judgment, is the most consistent predictor of deep female selection and long-term commitment. Be the man she does not have to manage. Create safety through consistency, calmness, and genuine presence. And you become the man she selects, not just once, but continuously. Factor 3. She picks the man who has something to build toward. Women are not attracted to outcomes. They are attracted to direction. A man who is already at the destination is interesting, but a man who is clearly, purposefully, and passionately in motion toward something that matters to him is magnetic. Because his direction communicates something that static success cannot. He is alive. He is growing. He is building something. And the energy of a man who is genuinely in motion toward a meaningful purpose is one of the most powerfully attractive things a woman can encounter in a human being. This is why the broke entrepreneur with a real vision often outperforms the comfortable man with a steady income in the attraction department. Not because poverty is attractive, but because direction is. Because motion is. Because the specific aliveness of a man who is working towards something he genuinely cares about creates a sense of possibility that static comfort simply cannot match. Dr. Buss's research found consistently across cultures that ambition and direction in men are among the highest-rated long-term selection criteria for women. Not for what they produce financially, for what they communicate about a man's internal vitality and his capacity to build a future worth being part of. Have something you are building. Be genuinely in motion toward it. And let her see the aliveness that creates. Factor 4. She picks the man whose attention means something. Here is the factor that most men completely overlook and that explains more about the patterns in their dating life than almost anything else. A woman's selection process is significantly influenced by the perceived value of the man's attention. And the value of his attention is directly connected to its scarcity. A man who gives his attention to everyone gives it the value of nothing. His attention is always available. It requires no effort to obtain. There is no competition for it and no achievement in receiving it. A man who is genuinely selective about where his attention goes, who is clearly invested in his own life and his own purposes, who does not light up equally for every woman in every room, makes his attention feel like something worth earning. And when a woman earns the genuine attention of a man whose attention means something, she does not take it for granted. She values it. She reciprocates it. She begins to build around it in the way that people build around things they genuinely treasure. This is not manipulation. It is not games. It is the simple reality that attention, like anything else, derives its value from its scarcity. And a man with a full, purposeful, directed life naturally creates that scarcity without ever trying to. Factor 5. She picks the man who does not need her to pick him. This is the factor that sounds paradoxical until you understand the psychology behind it. And then it becomes the most obvious thing in the world. The man she picks is almost always the man who was completely fine whether she picked him or not. Not because he was indifferent to her, but because his sense of self, his mood, his confidence, and his direction were all operating completely independently of her decision. He wanted her to choose him, but he did not need it to feel okay. And that independence, that quiet completeness, creates the specific attraction response that neediness destroys. Because the brain is wired to assign value based on availability. And a man who needs to be chosen is a man whose need is always available. While a man who is complete in himself is by definition not available for rent by her decision. Dr. Baumeister's research on self-esteem and social attraction found that individuals with high internal self-esteem, meaning their sense of worth comes from within rather than from external validation, are consistently rated as more attractive, more trustworthy, and more worth choosing by potential partners across all demographics studied. Be complete in yourself. Want her without needing her. And become the man whose completeness makes being chosen by him feel like something genuinely worth working for. Here is what all 5 of these factors have in common. None of them are about what you have. Not one of them is a possession, an achievement, or an external quality that can be bought or borrowed. They are all qualities of being, of who you are when you are fully yourself, of the internal architecture of a man who has built a genuine relationship with his own identity, his own direction, and his own worth. Women do not pick the best man on paper. They pick the man who makes them feel something that no other man in their experience has managed to create. And that feeling is the natural byproduct of being exactly who you described in this video. Grounded, safe, purposeful, selective, complete. It is really that simple. Not easy, but simple. And now you know exactly what to build. If this finally made something click for you, like this video and subscribe for more content that cuts through the confusion and gives men the real answers that have been hiding in plain sight. And let me say one last thing honestly before you go. Everything in this video points to a single truth. The man women pick is not built from the outside in. He is built from the inside out. And that building process is exactly what the Magnetic Masculinity ebook is designed to guide you through completely. Not inspiration, not theory. A practical, honest, step-by-step system for building the internal qualities that make women pick you without you ever having to perform, pursue, or prove yourself to anyone. I put 15 years of research into this guide. You can read it in a few hours. And I genuinely believe it is the most important investment you will make in your dating life and your sense of your own worth this year. The link is in the description. Scroll down, grab it today. Because the man who understands how women actually pick and then becomes that man completely is the man who stops wondering why and starts experiencing the results. Go become him.